You are a creator. You create your career, your business. You create a family. You create your future. On the Results Driven Life by Design broadcast, get ready to hear from people from all walks of life and how they overcame the odds to create a life led by purpose and vision. Here's your host, Kia Arian.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to today's broadcast. I always begin by reminding you that your skills, your experiences, and your talents have been given to you for a reason. No one else has that unique combination, and no one else has your voice. You have a message that the world needs to hear. And so, as you listen to today's show, I invite you to a greater vision that goes beyond what you do, but why you do it. On today's show, I have two very delightful people, a couple, that you are going to want to hear what they have to say. Because I plan on asking them questions that they probably haven't been asked before. And I know I just made them a little nervous, but there's no need to worry. They've known me for years, and they know that even though I like to challenge people, I am always kind. So, who is this mystery couple? They are my friends and design clients, Ed and Faith Alexander. Ed is an attorney and author and founder and CEO of Alexander Business Law, which is based in Orlando. And Faith is his lovely wife of 40 years. She works at the law firm and basically makes sure that everything is running smoothly. She manages HR, payroll, she's the administrative lead, and handles all the financial matters of the practice. Now, the reason I invited them on my podcast, well, there were two reasons. One is that they are one of the few people who successfully completed our Raving Clients Growth Program. Now, this is a 12 to 18-month program. We accept only a handful of clients in it because it's not for everyone. It requires wholesale shifts in not only the brand and positioning of your business, but in marketing, sales, processes, team dynamics, and probably most importantly, in your mindset and how people think about themselves. So not many are ready for that, but Ed and Faith were. And I'm so proud of the work that they put in and how they transformed their practice. And I want to talk about that. Now, before I get into the second reason why I invited them here, let me just introduce them so you can meet them and get to see them. So Ed and Faith, welcome. I am so happy to have you here.
Thank you, Kia.
Thank you, Kia. We're happy to be here.
Awesome. So this is going to be a fun conversation because the second reason I wanted to have you on this show is that very few couples are able to work together. But you have somehow figured it out, and I suspect I know why. And that why, at least in my view, was an important part of the transformation of your practice, of the repositioning of your practice. And I don't mean to be all mysterious about it, but I want to let that reason unfold as we chat so that it becomes a bigger aha for the listeners. But basically, that transformation was going from a law firm that sells contracts, agreements, legal transactions, which is all good stuff, but repositioning yourself to a law firm that promises a more enjoyable and fulfilling business and life for their clients. So that's what we're also going to talk about. So let's get started with this. Ed, can you tell us a little bit about your journey to where you are today so that the listeners can get some context for you and where you are?
I'm a third career lawyer. So originally I started out as an engineer. I was doing a bunch of design work for integrated circuits, which are basically computer chips. And then I moved into a marketing role within a tech company. And as part of that, I would travel around the country and do deals. And I said, oh, this is pretty cool. And I interfaced with the in-house counsel, and I said, I think I'd like to go to law school. So I went to law school at night, and I came out, and I went to work for the company I was there. This is up in Long Island, New York. And then at some point, they put me in a role that really didn't suit me because they kind of put me in the office, and it was I had a technical background, so they had me writing patents and doing patent work. I was basically stuck in the office all day long. So after doing all these deals and really enjoying it, I went to my boss and said, hey, I kind of want to do something else. I'd like to go back out and negotiate things, and was told, hey, we don't really have a position like that. So I came home and told Faith, hey, I'm ready to find a new position. And she said, her whole family was down here. So she said, well, if you're going to do that, do it in Florida. So that's how we got down to Florida. And I went to work for a firm that was doing work for one of the people I knew at the tech company down here in Florida. And yeah, so, and then a short time after that, that firm failed and I went out on my own. And so I've gone through a couple of iterations, but we've been now in the present iteration since 2005. So that's the long story of how I got here.
That's awesome. And you started as a business law practice.
Yeah, when I went to school, I knew 100% I was going to be a business lawyer. And so from day one, I just did business work. Now, in the beginning, I did some litigation, but it was all business related litigation. So, yeah, so I've always been a business lawyer. I've always loved business. I've always loved doing deals.
That's awesome. And I remember when we were when we were working together on your marketing and your positioning, that engineering background of having that systematic thought process and that analytical thought process really serves you well in being a business lawyer and in with agreements and other things that were talents that you had that brought into that were brought into how you help your clients, and that you work mostly with lawyers. That's kind of your target area, is helping attorneys transition their practices or exit strategies for law firms. Is that right?
Right. That's right. And I, for me, numbers are a special thing. I love working with the numbers, right? And early on, I didn't really come to that until I was doing some business deals, and clients would come to me and say, "Okay, here's the numbers. Here's how it's going to work." And intuitively, I said to myself, "That ain't going to work, right?" And so I would build a spreadsheet and I would show them, here's why it's not going to work. And I would lay it out for them and then we'd redo the deal terms. So for years, I had kind of thought to myself, all right, how do I integrate that? How do I sell that really into the marketplace? Because there was no other lawyer I found that was doing that kind of work when it came to deals. Yeah, they would do the legal work, but actually putting the deal together and kind of conceptualizing how it's going to work, I didn't see a lot of lawyers doing that.
That's so interesting. Where were they getting that help then, putting the numbers together and making the deal work beyond the legal work? Was that the broker's work? Where were they getting that help?
Sometimes the brokers would do it, but oftentimes I found that they would go headlong into it with numbers that necessarily wouldn't work. And then they'd pick up the pieces later on, whether that would be through litigation or redoing the deal, doing workouts.
Wow, that's so interesting. But because I love that you said that intuitively you knew the numbers, and um, I love that. That was something that came up when we were doing our sort of branding and positioning and how to bring in. I'm not trying to be a commercial for this program. I'm really not. Like we do a lot of brand development work, and one of the things that working with people that I see time and time again is that when they tap into their natural gifts, when they tap into, and not just their gifts, but things that bring them joy and make them happy, like what you just said, you said you love numbers and you love working with numbers, and being able to bring that in a bigger way and in a way that what you indicated, how can we market that? How can we add that value to what we're saying? Because you do it so effortlessly, you think that, oh, it's just part of what we do. But how can we bring that to the forefront so that it could be more valuable to your clients, but also to you, right?
Right.
Right.
Right. Absolutely.
How did you, let's just keep talking about that a little bit because I think it's so important. How did you end up doing that? Because, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when we met, you were doing that analysis, but it was just sort of part of the process. Tell me a little bit more about that. Like, how did you bring that more into making that part of the unique solution that you provided your clients and making sure they knew about it?
Yeah, so in productizing the services, kind of the work that we did together, right? We started to make that front and center in terms of the value itself, so that they understood going in that we're setting this up to be a successful transaction, and we want to make sure that at the end of the day, so it's not necessarily selling, oh, I can create a spreadsheet for you or do this or do that, because that has no value at all. but it's the assurance that the outcome is going to work. And you can say that, but then you have the proof of, okay, and this is how we do that, right? So it's ultimately making them comfortable about what we've been able to put together.
Yeah, I love that. And I remember when we had that discussion about you were offering that at the front, and not only that, but cleaning up their financials, helping them clean up their financials, but also operationally helping them clean up some of the operations so that the value of that transaction, an exit strategy would would be optimized, bringing that to the forefront, giving it names, making it part of the process. Speaking of the outcomes, those are so important, and that was such a challenge for you, but you did it so well. And so we're going to talk about sort of how that's all played out. Yeah. So let me shift to this question, and this is going to be for the both of you. And I'm going to start with Faith to answer this question. So, what would you say was the biggest factor or the top three factors that contributed to your success to where you are today?
Okay. I think I have two. I have two. I don't know what Ed's thoughts are. One is I think about 4 years ago now, we bought our own office space, and that really helped us expand, kind of own our own firm. The firm's 20 years old this March. In fact, coming up next week, we're going to do a little celebration here. But about five years ago, we decided to move out of our downtown office. We were in office space. We were sharing it with two other law firms, and it was rented for a long time. And previous to that, we had some other offices, but they were all they just weren't our place. And we created a different environment for our team, different environment for us. And I think that has really made the difference. I've seen that really take off. The other thing, and maybe we'll touch base with this a little later, is we've gotten better at hiring. That's always been the challenge. And I do a lot of that because that's really, I bring the people in. I get all the way to the ads, which I've used some of your tips for the posts and the ads. And I do a lot of have and such like that until they get to the point where they're actually meeting Ed. And I've gotten better at that. You have to realize you're interviewing a lot of skilled people, but we're looking for skilled people that are right for our team, that they're going to excel here at our firm. They be great attorneys or great paralegals, but they have to be great for our team. And I think that's been the difference too. We're getting better at hiring.
That's terrific. I'm so glad to hear that. And I've always, and thank you for saying that some of the hiring practices that we use that you're using too, because in my mind, hiring is just a sales campaign. And so when you use the principles of selling and marketing and positioning yourself as the desirable place to work, it changes the whole dynamic. Um, and so that's been really interesting for me when we hire, and the few people that they get through the screening process, which we have this kind of obnoxious job post, but when they get through the screening process, they're always like, "Oh my gosh, this sounds amazing. Tell me more about it." And it's all about positioning yourself properly. So I'm glad to hear that that's been such a success for you, bringing the right people on team. And I agree 100%. And they do have to culture culture alignment definitely trumps the skills, because you can always work on the skills and help them develop the skills and grow professionally, even personally. But they have to have the right mindset and the attitude that aligns with you. So
Right.
I agree
Yeah.
with that. So Ed, what would you say is the top factor or two or three factors that contributed to your success to where you are?
Yeah, so I think it's interesting. I would definitely agree with Faith on The Office 100%. I would expand on what Faith said about the hiring, because what we've done is, I think, implemented systems around some of the things. So, kind of a knowledge base that we've developed through written processes that have helped us get better at doing some of the things we weren't doing really well. So yeah, systematization, right? Work processes, things like that, trying to make little improvements here and there over time rather than trying to make a wholesale big jump. If we find something that isn't working, we go in, we fix that, maybe figure out the next thing that we can do to improve it, but we're not looking to replace an entire system, that kind of thing, or develop an entire system. We're just fixing the things that are there little by little. So Kaizen.
Continuous learning. I love
Yeah.
that. That's
And then
awesome.
and then I think the third one would be 80/20, right? So every, when Faith will prepare reports and financial statements, and I'm very lucky that she is part of the firm because I don't have to worry about anything financial. It's a huge benefit for me. But then we look at the kind of that 80/20, or did I say it wrong? Because I always say it wrong. It's either 28 or 80/20, but I always make the mistake.
80/20.
80/20. All right. There you go. I got it right. And we kind of work off of that to figure out, for example, we'll take a look at matters, right? And we'll look at what our 80/20 is on the matters, and we'll set our minimums based on 80/20, because if you look at it, you know, uh, that's going to get you the higher end A type clients that you want, right? Is focusing on that component, and taking the other that you have there, the lower portion of those matters, and giving them to people for whom they would be great matters. So those are things. Client selection, definitely the office, and me not having to worry about any of financial stuff. That's great.
That is great. Um, two things I want to say about that. One is for so many people, making that leap from saying no to the not quite right fit clients is so hard to do. And I don't remember, but I feel like that took a little processing for you both to like say no to the lower value to move to am I remembering right that that you had to really be very conscious about that, which you said was part of your success of saying no to
We
the lower.
definitely have to be conscious about it because, and my natural tendency is to say, oh, we can help that person, and not realize that the impact that it's going to have throughout and Faith, and certainly the team are always telling me, hey, we shouldn't do that, we shouldn't do that, right? Because it's my tendency is to say, that'll take nothing, we can do that.
It's just to help them with the solution, not always a matter of, oh, well, it's some money coming in, let's just do it. Um, but it's yeah, like we can do it, why not type of a.
Right.
All right, Faith, which camp were you in? Like, let's do it, or no, we said we would not do these and having to keep them out. Which part were you always part of?
Oh gosh. I definitely wanted to kind of do less of the 20%, but I was also a little bit of that scared part where, hey, we're letting go this work over here. Are we going to be able to, fill the bandwidth there with the rest of the stuff, because we weren't sure. Now that panned out to be a really good thing, but yeah, I think that I was probably more hesitant.
Where are you now? Are you now like, nope, this is not part of, who we are? Where are you now? Are you still find yourself tempted to take,
No, we don't take any of that anymore. Not at
good.
all. I mean, if there's one or two people only in the situation where we've known a client for a decade and they come to us with some small matter, of course, we're going to still help those people. But we don't take anybody in new that doesn't fit our criteria, our avatar client.
I love that. Congratulations. That is a shift that not many people are able to make. They don't. And it's like when they say no to that first one, even though they want to say yes, that kind of is that crack that lets that mind shift take place of that's not who we are anymore. And
Mhm.
after the second, third, fourth, fifth, it's just, of course, we're not going to do that anymore. And it's so freeing. It's so freeing. So congratulations for really
I
sticking
think
with.
I think the mindset to be able to do that has to be, if you're wanting to help people, right? So there's really two things I see that come up. One is you want to help people, and the other is you're concerned about the revenue, right? So from a mindset of helping people, I mean, there are tons of lawyers in our community that we can refer to. So we're always referring out to them, and they're thankful for the matters that we refer out because they're good matters for those lawyers. And so that helps the client because then obviously they're taken care of by somebody who wants their matter, for whom their matter is not something that's small. So that's one. The other side of it is if you really add up, if you look at your numbers and you look at your matters and you add up, well, what would it take for me to replace these matters? You realize the number of good matters to replace the matters you're sending out isn't really, it's certainly not a one-to-one, and it isn't that much.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And looking at it from that and making that decision to we're just going to say no. I remember when we were repositioning ourselves from being a kind of a design agency to more of a marketing brand development. So it took a shift for us to go from that to the marketing. We were already doing it, but it was like that, like you said, with your numbers analysis, it wasn't the forefront. And we were in transition to do that. And it was a transition. And I had gone to an event and I said, oh, this is it. This is the launch. We're a brand development agency. We're gonna, we keyed our programs so that they weren't just design projects or any of that. They were actually more robust type of message development, brand development projects. And I was so proud of it. And I'm, meeting people, and I had this one client. He was a current client and past client, longtime client. He came up and we greeted each other. And he goes, this was like so crushing to me, but this is just stuff you have to go through to make these transformations. He was like, I'm gonna call you. He's like, I need some new business cards. I was like, we don't do business cards anymore. That's not us anymore. We don't design them. We don't print them. We don't even do projects under, some threshold dollar amount. And business cards are what, like 30, 40, 50. I don't even know how much they are anymore.
Right.
And so it's like, so it can be a challenge to make that shift from not only first you realizing that that is not who you are anymore, and then other people seeing that too. But it's a gradual shift in how you talk about yourself, how you think about yourself, and in your sales process and your marketing process, and making that gradual shift. Let me ask you this, and I'll start with you, Ed. So great successes. What was the biggest challenge that you had to overcome to get to
In
this
my
point?
career entirely, or just in that
More
transition?
recent, like in the transitions that you've made in the more recent few years.
Well, I think that the sales process, right, is part of the challenge that I've had to work on. And thing to remember here about all of this is it's not perfect, right? It always is a work in progress. And so I'm still a work in progress on the sales side and inviting people in and that value conversation with the client where the client sees the value. I also I don't know, I get upset when clients don't see the value, right? You explain it to them and you realize, well, that's just their point of view, right? And that's perfectly fine. But it always irritates me. It's the same way when people unsubscribe from my e-newsletter that it irritates me too. I get one unsubscribe. I'm like, how did that person unsubscribe? But that's okay.
Yeah. That's so funny. That's so funny because I think everybody goes through that, but few people are like willing to, admit to it. And then after the more you do it, the more, and here's how I've experienced it is that the more you are convinced of the value that you provide and your message and in the way you provide it, not say you're convinced, not that you're not, but the more it's ingrained into you and you're confident about it, that this is what it is, then you realize it was not for certain people, but it's for very specific people. The less the stuff kind of bothers you. And like when you like the email list, when someone unsubscribes, you're like, okay, they're never going to be a good. Thank
Right.
you for freeing up space for somebody
Right.
else to come in.
I
But
know that intuitively. It's emotionally, right? Because yeah, that's the way
I
it
know,
goes.
I know that's good. So Faith, what would you say has been the biggest challenge to overcome?
I think, well, just to answer his newsletter thing, I think the more you do that at the beginning, we used to, oh, who's unsubscribing and counting that. And I can't remember the last time I've ever looked at the stats on that because we just keep adding people every month. So after a while, you just don't think about that. But in the beginning, you're watching everything. I think the biggest thing to overcome for me is I'm very big on efficiency, keeping things very orderly. It's just who I am. And so I think for a long time, our law firm wasn't as efficient, and now we have become way more efficient. Um, we have systems in place. We really have the staff follow all of the systems. I'm not going to say that it's working perfectly, but I think we are at least 80%, 90% of the time, we're doing really well with that. I still get frustrated when something slips through the crack, but we're getting more efficient. And that has been a big challenge for us over the past couple of years. I
Mm,
think our work has expanded. Good thing, knock on wood, we have lots of work. But as the work expands, you have to create better systems.
mhm. Yeah, and nothing is ever going to be perfect in that. But I always tell when people go through massive changes, which you did. Um, I mean, you really exploded in, when you started with repositioning your messaging, and then then you were like, now we got to start marketing and selling it. And you launched a podcast, you joined peer groups, you traveled more, and it kind of put a dent in the life, your travels, and some of it seemed to me, and like some of the leisure life that you had, it took away from that, but temporarily. Yes, is that accurate, or was my
We do
describing?
travel a lot. Last year we traveled probably a good 7 months, maybe 7 weeks or 8 weeks out of the year, because we were gone the month of June. Then we were a little bit gone in the end of July and October, a couple of weeks.
In
Definitely puts a
August.
dent. But August, okay. Oh, that's right.
Mhm.
So definitely, it helps to have a good team, and we also work while we're away too. Well, some
Mhm.
of the time.
Occasionally. Yeah, occasionally. Yeah. It's
So,
just so I mean, our daughter got married in June, so we were in Europe for what, like 23, 24 days? What was it,
Mhm.
Faith? Something
Yeah.
like that.
that's
It was a
that's awesome.
fantastic, fantastic time.
Okay, so let me start to unfold that thing that I want to unfold, which I think is so brilliant, and I think you both embody it so well and demonstrate it so well, and really is so instructive for the listeners. And doesn't mean you have to be not attorneys or law firms, but anybody who has their own business, who works hard, who's trying to grow, who has family, and they don't want to, not spend time with their family, not enjoy their life. So let me start it with this. With the two of you working together, and we've sort of got a sense of how your skills and your gifts, complement each other, right? And even though you're a numbers person, you're glad not to deal with the numbers of the law firm. And I'm glad not to deal with the hiring. You just want to do the work that you love, which is helping structuring these deals and getting the best outcome for your clients. And Faith loves efficiency, and she loves, making sure everything goes smoothly, and it's a beautiful combination. So when you decided to work together, was it a conscious decision, or was it out of necessity? And the reason I ask is because I think there are a lot of law firms and other businesses where both spouses work in the business, and some successfully do it and some maybe not so successfully. And so, would you agree that that contributes to work-life balance, or does it create more challenges than it's worth? You seem to do it effortlessly, which I've already indicated. So, talk about it and speak to the person who maybe wants to bring their spouse on, or they want to kick him out. So, so Ed, why don't you talk about that a little bit?
So the first thing I want to say is that we do it effortlessly, like the duck on the pond, right? You just below the water, you don't see all the activity that's going on. It's a work. We work at it, um, and it's great that we each have our own realms, and we both have kind of different personality styles. Faith calls me the bull in the china shop because I just go and do things. And Faith is always trying desperately to pull me back from, kind of like, let's think about this for a minute before we start doing these things. So she does a great job at that. And yeah, I mean, I think if I were to say it, it's, you just got to, well, we we do personality tests for everybody that comes in. We do a disc profile, and we've done it for ourselves. And it helps you understand who the other person is and where they come from. And so you can communicate better with them. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good, and there's tension, but we work all through it. We've been married 40 years, and so our relationship is very strong, and so I think that certainly helps. I think if you were not to have a strong relationship, and then you brought somebody in and you clashed, that would give rise to additional tension in the relationship at home. So I don't know if I answered your question, Kia. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, and what I think the main thing that I got out of that was that you really do have to work at it, and I agree with that. That relationships, you can't just let them float and think that everything's going to be okay. You've got to work on yourself. You've got to work together to grow in ways that sustain the relationship, and that's really, I think in any relationship, business, personal, they both have to do the work, and and understanding that separation of powers and being very intentional about that separation of powers,
Right.
where the gifts fall in. So yeah, so thank you for saying that, and I agree with that. What about you, Faith?
Well, I agree with what Ed had to say. So very much agree with that about having the separation and the different personalities. I think two things, communication in anything, communication in your personal relationships and communication in the office. We, for good or bad, we spend a lot of time talking about the firm at home, a little too much. Whereas if you're not working in the same business together and it's not your business, you're not going to do that. So that's one thing, a bit of advice for people if they were going to work together, that it's not just, Monday to Friday kind of thing. You're working and you're communicating all the time about what's going on. The other thing that he brought up, which I thought was a good point, was the DISC profile assessments. And so it has a certain DISC profile assessment, and I have realized that I am surrounding him because of the hiring. The people that I tend to bring in have very close to my DISC profile assessment. And I don't know if that's how I want to work with the people like me, or if I know that the opposite, the yin and yang, works for Ed too. Since he, that type of person, he wouldn't want somebody just like him in the office. We work. It's good to have someone who has the other talents, or the other skill sets, or the other emotional, personality. So we do rely on that a lot, and I think it helps us too.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Using a tool like that to understand it, and then being able to have complement the skill sets. I mean, when I look at my team, we're all very different, and we do complement each other. But like we said earlier, it really, the culture and the work ethic and the values align.
Mhm.
Mhm.
All three very different people. That's such a good point. I want to go back real quickly to something that you said that contributed to your success was having your own office space. Do you think the reason why is because of, like, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but what is it about having your own space that kind of launched you to the next level?
No, it's yours, Faith. Go for it.
Okay. What launched us to the next level? We were able to form our own culture, our own environment. Like we said, there was two other firms there. So I think we all get along great, and we still do. We're of counsel to each other's firms. Um, but it's a different culture. It's sort of like living in someone else's house or renting a room in someone else's house or having roommates. And here the environment, I knew the things I wanted to bring here. Um, and how we wanted to treat the clients coming in the door. Not that since COVID that's changed, but just seeing when they come in for business closings, how we wanted to treat the team. Just felt it was this lightness that, hey, we can do this now, or do it our way. And I really think that changed the mindset for me, just a little more in control of your journey, what you're doing.
I love that answer. Did you have anything to add, Ed, to that?
No, I think it's perfect.
Yeah, yeah, I love that answer. And that's really kind of the big thing that I wanted to get to and to let unfold, because what was so brilliant about the transformation um, that you both did for your law firm was that you took who you already are. Like there was this bridging, a closing of a gap of, this is who Ed and Faith are. They love their life. They work on their relationships. They on their relationship. They enjoy their life. They know who they are, what value they bring, and they know how to work on those things and work on them together. And now they have this business that they were kind of running based on what the business world says. And so, but then when you brought that together, like the way that you naturally lived your life and you brought it into your business and you inserted it in places in your business. So maybe as an example, but getting your own space. Now you have ownership of it. Now it's no longer separate from you. Now it's part of your whole life. You're able to grow from there. And if we bring that idea into your marketing and your positioning, where you transformed yourself from a transactional type of legal services to more of an outcome solution partnership based with your clients, the outcome is they would get what you already naturally do, which is you have this beautiful blend of business and life together, that there's no separation. It doesn't even have to be balanced because it's just this one unit.
Mm.
And now your business is helping people do that. And that's where you changed your message, right? You changed it from that transactional to, I think you have one of the most brilliant taglines is enjoy your life and your business. Stop doing work you don't like to do and start doing, what was it? Tell me, I'm sorry. I'm like,
Stop doing work you don't want to do. Do the work you want to do, and enjoy your business and your life.
and it's funny because I know that, like, anyway, I love it. And because I think it's just such a reflection of who you both are and how you brought that into your business. And now look at you. And not just that, but look at your clients that you're helping achieve the same, where it's beyond, here, let's put this together, but let's help you transform your life. And I think that's just the most gratifying thing ever. I don't know, I just went off on this. Tell me your thoughts on that.
No, I agree. I mean, we just had, it's interesting. So I helped a client transition their law firm. So they were able to bring on an additional person because they wanted to do something in their life that wasn't law oriented, right? And it was their personal mission. That's what they wanted to go on. And then so he started doing that work. And what happened is, as firm was going along swimmingly well, and then something unforeseen came up. He had a health issue, and he couldn't work for months on end. But the structure was already in place because he had wanted to do something different in his life. And then when the health issue came up, everything just continued on the way it was. It wasn't like his practice was at risk or any of those things. So, really, an unintended consequence is because when he came, he had a specific thing he wanted to do that wasn't the law, right? And so we helped him set up so he could go do that thing. And then, oops, something else beneficial came out of it. So it feels good when you see those kinds of transformations.
Yeah, you're helping them create the life that they want, not just at certain points in their life and like these small points. And it does feel good. It does feel good.
Right.
Um, so we're coming to the bottom of our time, the end of our time, and thank you guys for sharing what you did and being honest. It wasn't so bad. I didn't ask questions that would embarrass, but I just
Yeah.
not yet, not yet. I could, but I'm not going to do that. Let me thank you for sharing that story. And I want to, is there any other story that you can share where you've seen a life transformed from any part of the work that you do or any input that you had? So that was great. Any other one, either internally within your own office or with your clients? Um, any story that you can share where you've created results for your client that was like, truly like breakthrough for them?
Well, I guess you know, so it's kind of, there's so many versions of it, but it looks like having the client come to you, they are kind of at a loss because on the one hand, they've been really working very hard for years and years. And now they are looking at their 50s, early 60s and saying, I can't do that anymore, right? It's eating me up. And it's such a common theme that, you could pick a lawyer in their 60s and this is probably happening to them, right? And they don't know what to do next, right? What's going to happen after this? And then you can really discuss with them what are their goals, what do they want to do, and you can map out a plan that then we can implement for them, right? And there are ups and downs along the way. A lot of times they'll think, oh, well, I've got an associate and she's going to come on and take over the practice. And the associate doesn't see the value and we have to deal with all of that. So there's ups and downs and it takes time and we've got to create that ongoing relationship. We've got to change the relationship between the owner and the associate or between the owner and the buyer, that type of thing. And ultimately getting to the point where they're able to feel good about the future because they're feeling terrible about it when they come to me and say, well, what is it what's the possibility, what can I make happen? And then ultimately here's the map to get there, we do the work to get there, and then at the end when everybody's signing the documents you can feel the sense of relief that it's all put together for them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the emotional aspect of it
Mm-hmm.
is, yeah. And that's comes to where you promise the enjoyment. So enjoyment is,
Right.
is the emotion of what you enjoy. So I agree. When you can go beyond, just providing the services and really changing their outlook and how they feel about their life and their situation. That's huge.
Huge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's wonderful. So I'm going to ask one last question, and I'm going to direct it at Faith and let her have the last word on that. So what I didn't share about you guys is that you also have a very successful family. I mean, you have two daughters. I think one is a very successful attorney. The other one is a physician. Is that right? Amazing,
Correct.
Correct.
amazing. And you have amazing relationships with them. And so, so what you've built in your business, in your life, like all of it, you have a lot to offer. You have a lot to offer to people, not just in what you do, but in helping them again live the life that they know that they can live. So here's my question, Faith. So what advice would you give your younger self or someone who's like young, just starting? What advice would you give them so that they can have a trajectory that's similar to what you two have built?
Oh gosh, my younger self. Um, Gosh, I don't. That one's a tricky one.
What about Ed? Ed, well, if you give you a few minutes to think about it, Ed,
Okay.
what would you say?
So two things. One, the first thing is when you talked about our daughters. I was a lawyer who I just had become a lawyer because I was a third career lawyer when our uh, youngest was born, right? And so we had two daughters, and I made the decision, a conscious decision, that I was not going to let my law practice invade my ability to spend time with my girls. Uh, so as a result of that, I was there for the practices, I was there for the games, I was there for all of that. And I will tell you that it cost me money. There is absolutely no doubt about it that it cost me money to do that. But I would spend that money in a heartbeat. And so I would tell myself, yes, that was the right thing to do, and go for it and continue on. Don't doubt it, because there were plenty of times along the way that I doubted it, as I saw people making more money than me, or, getting different places than me. But now that I look back on it, I know that it was 100% the right decision.
That's awesome. I love that. Such good advice. Faith, did you think?
Okay. Well, I think that I probably would have my younger self, I would have started working for myself sooner. I had a lot of series of different jobs, different careers, and in and out of working for Ed for a couple of years. In the beginning of the firm, I worked for a little bit. Kids were young, part-time, but then I didn't. And I think I know myself better now, and I would have just started sooner, and 20, 30 years ago, and started a business then, and started to create it sooner. And I think it affords you a lot of freedom. And that would probably be the advice to myself. I thought of something else also, an accomplishment, and this is a little bit of a shout out to you, but the one thing I did want to do for years is to get our branding right. We had a firm folder and put in some marketing material, but we really exploded again, several years back. And it was something like always on the back burner I wanted to do. And we finally get to do it. So I would have done that sooner also.
To clean up the image and that unified, more kind of
Right.
image that you wanted to. Yeah. Yeah. It does make an impact in how you view yourself when you can show up in a different way.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
How everybody views you, really.
What's that?
How everybody views you, it makes a huge difference.
It really does. It really does. I think those are really great advice, and it does. And what I hear from both of you is really going against the grain of, like you said, Ed, what everybody else is saying to do, and looking at it and being like, should I really should be doing this, but this is more valuable. Staying with your family, and I know you don't regret it. I had a
Not a
similar,
bit.
yeah, I had a similar journey, and I
Yeah.
don't regret it. And having it, and to your point, Faith, having your own business is definitely harder. It challenges you both
Mm.
in work, in resilience, and in your character and the type of person you are. It grows you and molds you much differently in a harder way, but definitely in a fulfilling way. So yes, I mean, no regrets, obviously, but for anyone thinking about starting their own business, just do it, right? Just do it.
100%.
Make the sacrifices. You'll be a different person for it, but it will be good if you surround yourself with the right people. It will be a good place for it.
Yeah, that's kind of the key, right? You got to surround yourself with the right people, other people who've been in business, not people who are not in business, right? That is the key.
That actually is. That actually is. That's probably a whole nother podcast episode that we can do, which we might do. Ed and Faith, this has been such an inspiring conversation. I really enjoy talking to you guys every time we run into each other at conferences. Hopefully, we will see each other soon at conference, enjoy a glass of wine together, and talk more.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So, how can people stay in touch? So, there are a lot of attorneys that listen to this podcast. What is a good resource that you could maybe give them, or how can they stay connected with you?
So a couple of things. One is they can get the guide to selling your Florida law practice. I know it's Florida oriented, but it'll apply outside of Florida as well. To get that, you can get a free download at exitmylawpractice.com. And then they can go to our website and sign up for the newsletter. In that newsletter, I talk about all kind of issues related to business transactions, and you also get some information about our travels and what we're doing in our lives and things of that nature. So
Wonderful. And so exitmylawpractice.com. And like we talked about in this podcast, the solution to what they're looking for isn't always exiting, but it could be some other way. And this is a good start to understand what is it that they're trying to accomplish. It could be exiting or it could be some other thing. And that's what you do so brilliantly. And I will vouch for that newsletter. Our team actually puts it together. It's one of our favorite because it does such a wonderful job of integrating who you are, what your values are, how you're able to create the life that you have, while also educating and teaching your readers about the thing that you do best. So definitely go on alexanderbusinesslaw.com, sign up for that. Make sure you get on their print newsletter list and stay connected with them. So thank you both again. Beautiful way to end this conversation. Thank you for coming on. And
Thank you for having us.
Of course, we'll do it again. And thank you to my listeners for tuning in. And again, my name is Kia Arian, reminding you that your skills, your talents have been given to you for a reason. There are people who stand to benefit from what you have to offer, and there are others who you are not called to help. Focus on the former group. They're waiting for you.
If you enjoyed this broadcast, subscribe to the show, connect with Kia on LinkedIn, and let her know what inspired you. This broadcast was brought to you by Zine, a marketing and brand development agency that helps attorneys, entrepreneurs, and professional service providers create raving clients who love them, stay with them, and tell others about them. Visit zinemarketing.com/newsletter to sign up and receive the Breathe Life newsletter, a print publication of Zine.